everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. It's been a little while. The second episode Daniel and I filmed just my mic. Okay, never mind, we're good. All right, so the second episode Daniel and I filmed, it got lost in the process, so I have no idea what happened with that episode, but we're back. I believe 4 days before free agency, and obviously a lot of noise has been coming out recently, and we're obviously joined with Mr. Chouinard again for the second time. So we can just get right into it with probably the biggest news that's been happening over the last week or so. Mr. Kyrie Irving, the mystery man himself. There's been a lot of hoopla about this man. Obviously today, Woj reported that it's basically just the Lakers and nobody else that are interested in Kyrie. The speculation is whether he's going to lose $30 million to sign the mid-level with the Lakers, which is $6 million, or he's going to opt in and the Lakers somehow figure out a trade, which would probably have to be a 3-team because no way the Nets are taking Westbrook back with Ben Simmons already there. So in my eyes, I think it's looking like Kyrie is going to be a Laker. Obviously, that's a huge get. All three of us are on the same page about Westbrook. Even if Westbrook plays better next year, like a borderline all-star, if he can even get that high, you're still not going anywhere. There's still a lot of teams better than you. Kyrie's just an all-around better fit than Westbrook, obviously. And I think it's looking like Kyrie's going to be a Laker. It's just a matter of how and when. It all boils down to the 29th when Westbrook and Kyrie both have to make a choice on their contract options. So it'll be interesting to see. But, Kyrie's looking really well. Hopefully he can come to LA because Lord knows we need all the help we can get, and hopefully flip Westbrook after Kyrie. If Kyrie comes on the mid-level, we can flip him to Charlotte for maybe Hayward and Oubre to get some more wing depth. That would probably be ideal. But if I'm Kyrie, I'm not losing $30 million. But then again, it's Kyrie Irving, so we never know what's on his mind or what he's going to do. Obviously, he's lost $17 million with the whole vaccination thing. So, yeah, that's kind of just my thoughts on the situation if you want to talk about it, Daniel.
It obviously would be a dream to get Kyrie. I think it would just help our team tremendously. Just hoping that if this were to happen, if we were to keep, Kyrie and Westbrook, I don't even know how that team would work out or how that would work. What would the starting lineup be like? Kyrie, Westbrook, LeBron.
Westbrook would be off the bench.
The five, man. Westbrook would cry, so I'd imagine we'd get him on starting lineup somehow. But if that were to happen, I don't even want to talk about that because that would be awful. But the rumors of Kyrie taking the mid-level, this guy is, I think, quote unquote, lost his mind. At this point, I feel like he must not care about money that much with all the vaccine stuff and losing all that money last season. So I think his mindset might just be, prove everyone wrong next season and get a big, paycheck next summer. But at the end of the day, he's going to get paid no matter what after this year, in my opinion. So because we saw him last year, even with kind of being on and off with being there for the team. When he was on the court, he still was that, the elite ball handler we all know, that elite scorer, that offensive threat. So I don't think there's questions about his play on the court. It's all the off-the-court stuff with the vaccine, his attitude, and just all those question marks that he, gives a team when they think about, hey, do we want to make a move for Kyrie? So the Lakers are obviously the only team that are dumb enough to go after him. So by all means, I'll take him with open arms. And, like Matt was saying, if we get him, trade Westbrook. I don't even care. I don't even care what we get. Just anything at this point. I'd take just and watch Westbrook go on some mediocre team and, drop numbers, but, let him do his thing. But those are kind of my thoughts. I think it's I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get Kyrie. I'm kind of set on it. So, I'm ready to get excited for the next season, and this is exactly what the Lakers need to do to make us excited to watch 82 games again next year. So, because I think all three of us could agree we do not want to see 82 games of Westbrook ever again. Yeah, that's a big no-no.
Before I hand it off to Brody, I remember the last episode that will probably never see the day of light that we're talking about Westbrook. It was looking like he was going to stay and play a whole nother year. Obviously, Darvin Ham was gassing him up, and he let out a quote that he wants him to be a defensive guy. Hopefully, I can never see that because I don't think he's going to change. You're asking the wrong guy to be a defensive-minded point guard. We all know the defense he played last year. A lot of ball watching from what I saw, but I think Westbrook just has to go. It's just the best for both sides. And here you go.
Okay. Man, last time I talked about the Lakers, I was screaming into the camera. So here we go again. I'm going to make a pitch directly to Mr. Irving. Mr. Irving, I know you think you're this higher being, and you are, man. You're gonna be the savior of the Lakers. You're like Jesus to us right now, man. I know a lot of people don't see you that way, but we could use you in LA. I think we need some help. I think I saw something that was 41 games of Kyrie is better than 79 games of Westbrook. It really boils down to this. Westbrook didn't work. We don't know if Kyrie will work, but Kyrie brings entertainment. It's Hollywood. It's the Lakers. Kyrie makes us competitive. I don't know what Draymond is talking about when he says, we wouldn't beat them. I think Kyrie, LeBron, AD at full health is a championship team with whatever pieces, we can bring along for the ride. Hopefully, Malik Monk comes back and we can get a decent center, not a Marc Gasol, Dwight Howard, somebody, a little bit of youth. But I think Kyrie is a believer in losing money because he doesn't like money, man. And the Lakers, we could give you $6 million, and that's $30 million less. So if it's really true, you want less money, come to LA, man. We got it for you. $6 million to play with your old buddy LeBron. You got Lay Geezer and A Disney ready to run it up, and year 20, right? I don't really know who else is gonna be on the roster. Rob's full of surprises. I don't even know. I think Stanley Johnson and Austin Reeves and Christie, that guy from Michigan, MSU. He looks like a hooper, but I think that with Kyrie on the team, we would have enough to make a run at it. I think it will happen. I give it 80% chance. Maybe it's because I'm a delusional Lakers fan, but that's okay. Will it happen through a trade? I don't think Brooklyn will trade us Kyrie. I think it has to happen through the $6 million exception, but I could very well be incorrect. Just, the Westbrook question mark never ceases to fail. If we do get Kyrie, I hope we ship Westbrook to somewhere for something. Just not giving up a pick. That'd be cool. I think that Kyrie's a great fit if he can play somewhat of a decent amount of games. We're gonna be good. I think, it relies on AD, not getting hurt, which won't happen. LeBron not getting hurt, which seems like it's not gonna happen, and Kyrie being mentally stable. Better odds than with Westbrook, though, which is kind of sad. So, Coach Ham, you got a lot to work with, but also not a lot to work with. So, I hope guys like Malik Monk come back just in case it all falls apart. I'd love to make the playoffs. That's kind of my mindset right now. Championship would be nice, but just being competitive again would be cool as a Lakers fan. I mean, the Lakers, we expect you to be competitive. All right. And the last thing is, Rob, don't mess it up, man. Whatever you do, don't mess it up. I think you'll be okay though.
Yeah, if I were to put a percentage on it, I'll probably one up Brody. I'll give it a 90. I just think all writing's on the walls at this point. I mean, all it takes is just the Nets to cave in and finally give Kyrie what he wants, and then he's back in Brooklyn. But it'd be kind of weird just to flaunt the Lakers around this much just to not end up going. But then again, losing $30 million is a lot of money. But to go through all of this just to stay in Brooklyn seems like a bit much. But Kyrie's all about that, so it checks out. But yeah, as I said, it's just a matter of when and how. I think once it's the 29th, that will just tell us everything and what's going to happen next. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think Darvin Ham will be able to get Kyrie to stay on the court because I'm not a big fan of Steve Nash as a coach. When he first got hired, I never really understood it because he kind of just came out of nowhere. And I just feel like he's just kind of a stepping mat in Brooklyn. No one really takes him seriously. That's just my interpretation because obviously Kyrie with the famous quote that we don't need a coach. So that was interesting, and I feel like Steve Nash is just kind of a guy that doesn't really enforce anything. And I think Darvin Ham is the polar opposite. I think he's going to get the whole locker room to buy in. Everybody's going to listen to what he says. So I feel like that's going to be a huge factor into that as well. And my hope is just Kyrie plays 60-something games. Yeah. And that's the least you can ask for.
Healthy in the playoffs.
Yeah. And LeBron, he can play 60. AD needs to play more than 40. Like, Jesus, bro, you need to literally...
Like 60. I think in all the 60s for all of them.
Yeah, I think the 60s is definitely reasonable. But if we get Kyrie, obviously the biggest question is how we fill out the roster. If we have the mid-level, I'd like to see Malik Monk come back. Obviously, he's come out and said that money isn't the biggest thing for him. But another guy I like heading into free agency is Otto Porter Jr. If we have the mid-level still there, because I don't think he's a minimum. I think he's definitely played more than that to get a bigger contract. But he could very well stay in Golden State, and I can see that happening. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we fill it out. Obviously, this is a pretty weak free agency class, and it'll be interesting to see how Rob fills out this roster. Obviously, last year we thought things would be a little different, that the veterans would help us, and that was very well not the case.
The opposite.
But obviously, we got the young guys. We got options on Wenyen, Stanley, and Austin Reeves. I think all those guys are returning. That would be stupid to let any of them walk, in my eyes. So I think those three guys will help us out a lot and will be key pieces in rotation. Obviously, being younger guys as well, but THT. But we'll see how he's even used because him and Westbrook obviously did not mesh at all, and could very well be the same thing with him and Kyrie and how Darvin uses him. So that'll be interesting. He could very well still be traded. Could be thrown in a Westbrook trade depending on what we get. But yeah, we'll see if Daniel wants to give his last thoughts on it.
I mean, not much more to say, but for percentage-wise, I'll be the full delusional Laker fan here and go 99.9%. I mean, like I said, I'm fully believing that this would happen. If it doesn't, I will literally cry because I don't want to watch Westbrook. It will literally, just not make me want to watch games like last year. Like, last year was
hard.
It was really hard to usually, I'll kind of watch. I don't watch, all 82. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I ever will do that. But, Like I'll watch like maybe around like a good 40 to 50 games. Last year I think I watched maybe like 15, like fully, like being
all the ones that were on like TNT or something.
being
like that.
fully honest, like after like I think most of the game I watched like the beginning of the season, then when like injuries started to happen and you just see how bad Westbrook is. I mean, the motivation to watch really kind of came downhill. I mean, it just really wasn't like, do I want to spend 3 hours on my Friday, on my Tuesday or whatever night to watch the Lakers lose? Like, exactly. So it's just like, it was just kind of disappointing last year, but just hoping that Kyrie can definitely bring in more viewers, I feel like. So I'm just kind of hoping it happens, and I just pray that AD can maybe do something. I don't know, eat your veggies or something. Don't get hurt. Stretch before games. Do like yoga or something after games. I don't know, but he seriously needs to figure it out, because if he plays like another 40 to 30 games, I mean, it's not going to be worth it. So just be healthy, please.
And the last thing, if this were to happen, how serious of contenders do you think? Do you think they're on the level of Golden State and those other teams? Honestly, if I think Kyrie there and a competent roster around, I think they're better than any team in the West besides Golden State. I think Golden State's still probably number one in the West and the team to beat. But yeah, I think just that big three is just going to be really good in the West. Obviously, we saw what Kyrie and LeBron could do, and obviously having a big guy like AD, assuming he's on the court, will be very good to watch. If title favorites, I'd like to think they're up there, like top 3, 4, but I think Golden State is probably still the team to beat, regardless if this happens or not. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, if you want to give yours.
Yeah. I would like to add, I think that percentage-wise, if Kyrie opts out, I'm fairly confident he's going to Lakers. Like, there's nothing to change. If he opts in, then we really get to see if what's his name, Sean Marks, right? Sean Marks has big enough balls to hold out on him. Anyways, I think if we build a competent enough roster, right? You got the 3 young guys that you mentioned: Wenyen, Austin Reeves, Stanley Johnson, Christie. That's 4. LeBron, AD, Kyrie. That's 7. I'll say Westbrook's on the roster for now. That's 8. We don't know what's gonna happen there. THT and none. That's 10 guys right there. You need at least 2 more big guys, maybe even 3, because you got to play the AD game, and probably a decent shooter, like an Otto Porter, just some sort of wing help, because again, a lot of guards on that team. But I would say that the Lakers would be behind Golden State. I'd take the Lakers over Memphis right now. So yeah, just behind Golden State, because we don't know.
Memphis that high?
Huh?
You have Memphis that high?
Yeah, I have Memphis in the top 4 seed. If Ayton doesn't go back to Phoenix, we don't know. We'll hopefully get to that. We don't know what Phoenix is gonna do at the center position, and Clippers will be back, but they always disappoint in the playoffs per usual. And Denver's gonna be back. We don't know what Utah's gonna do. We don't know the Donovan situation and the Gobert thing. So a lot of question marks out in the West. Again, pretty confident Russ opts in. Like, I don't see why he wouldn't. And we really don't know what Kyrie's gonna do. But with those 3, I just don't see how the Lakers are not a top. At least, Vegas odds, at least they should be a top 3 for a title. I'd put them in the Golden State, Milwaukee category, because I do think Milwaukee's my favorite to come out of the East right now. But it's gonna be a roller coaster if those 3 are on the team, no matter what. If Westbrook's on the team, this season, going into this season, I fully expect a roller coaster, and we don't know what we're gonna get at. We don't know how many loops. We don't know how many screws. We just kind of getting on for the ride and seeing where it goes. So, yeah.
All right, now moving on to the second Nets player in question, Mr. Kevin Durant. Obviously, there's been some reporting that if Kyrie were to walk, KD would be to follow in line. Don't know if I'm necessarily buying that. Shams tweeted about how he's been monitoring the situation. I also saw that he hasn't been talking to Sean Marks at all since their season ended, which is obviously something to look into. I saw Brian Windhorst posted something that the Nets are more than willing to let both stars walk. I'm not sure if I'm believing that. Obviously, I never believe anything Brian Windhorst has to say. I don't think he really has any sources, but that's another thing. I think if you're the Nets, you bite the bullet and let Kyrie walk if you're not agreeing on anything. But I don't think I want to give up Kevin Durant. But then again, he is on contract for 4 more years, and teams will offer a lot since he's
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, since it's Kevin Durant, plus he's on contract for a lot of time. But I'm not sure if I'm Brooklyn, if you want to just blow it all up. You were relevant for like 2 years now, 3 years. Obviously, the Harden trade's looking pretty bad right now for them. And to lose Kyrie and KD in one summer would just be mind-blowing. And you're left with Ben Simmons. So
Don't forget Patty Mills.
He has an option, doesn't he?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, he has a player option, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if Ben Simmons is the head of your franchise, that's not great. But who knows? Obviously, Damian Lillard posted an Instagram story of him and Kevin Durant in Blazer uniforms, which pretty sure is tampering. So Damian Lillard will probably get a fine there. And Jusuf Nurkic posted it too. If I were to give a percentage of KD leaving, give like a 30%. I'm just not fully into that. KD comes to Brooklyn, Kyrie leaves, and he just dips. But obviously he did that with Golden State, which is still surreal to this day. But I think if you're KD, you still stay in Brooklyn. You see what Sean Marks is able to do this offseason. If Kyrie were to walk, see how he fills out the roster. I'm sure he can still fill out a really good roster around KD. It's not that hard. A lot of players will want to come to Brooklyn and play for KD. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole situation pans out, because Brooklyn is in a very sticky situation and it can blow up right in their face in a couple of days. So we're all just waiting to see what happens there. KD could very well want out. We'll see. But if I were to pick a place to where he plays next, I think Portland would be pretty good destination for him. Obviously, they've been looking for that second star for Dame for the longest time now, and they're all in on trying to reconstruct their roster. Obviously, getting Jeremy Grant was a pretty good need for them, but obviously they still have a lot more work to do to make that roster contending as they want it to be. But in terms of a trade to get him to Portland, I'm not sure how the salaries match up. The number one thing is obviously Anthony Simons, but he's still on a rookie contract if I'm not mistaken.
Like $2 million or something.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what they're giving up in terms of
Grant.
Jeremy Grant's the closest thing they got at $20 million. Josh Hart is another piece, but I don't know how much he's making. Nurkic is a free agent. So, yeah, Portland, I'm not sure how he gets there, but I think it would be fun to watch. Obviously makes the West a lot more entertaining come seeding time, obviously, with so many teams that are good and healthy. So it'll be interesting to see. But all in all, KD could very much well request out if Kyrie were to walk, but I don't see it happening. I just think he sees what Sean Marks does with Kyrie. If he walks, he walks. He'll let it play out I think he should at least play it out for a year, see what happens, and see if things get any better. But, yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
I think that, with Katie, it's just a weird situation as well with Kyrie. For one, I wouldn't be surprised if he left, because I feel like the past couple of years he's kind of been, with leaving teams and stuff, I feel like he just doesn't really stay. And I think that I'm pretty sure he just doesn't want to be the solo star in a team, because I don't think we have no idea what Ben Simmons or what the hell's happening with him. But I really wouldn't be surprised if KD left to go to maybe another contender. It's kind of been in his nature to kind of join stacked teams the past couple of years. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again. But they definitely could get a pretty good roster to support him. I have no doubt in my mind. But it's just all up to him if he wants to kind of stay there and be the guy to lead the team, which I think that's a fair question to ask. We don't really know if KD really wants to do that at this point in his career. So I still think it's kind of a lower chance, but maybe like a 50 to 40% somewhere in there if he leaves. I personally just wouldn't be surprised if it happens. It really sucked for Nets fans just to have a stacked roster then in 3 years? Yeah. A big three that was so hyped up just falls apart like this. It's kind of sad, but teams that he would go to, Portland's a good one. Realistically, I was going to say, imagine if he goes to Miami. That would be really...
They got the pieces.
That'd be disgusting.
They definitely could get him. That would be fun time for Giannis to try to beat that team. But it's just... I don't know. I just don't really, I'm not the biggest fan of KD and his, actions, calling himself like a god on social media. It's like...
Two gods, Kyrie and KD.
Yeah, he's been hanging out with Kyrie too much. I feel like that he hasn't wanted to kind of just be the guy on a team. I just feel like he always goes to like these super teams. So, I would not be surprised if he goes to the Heat or if he just leaves the Nets in general, because if you realistically look at it, who knows what they would surround him with. But the East still has really good top four teams with the Bucks, Celtics, and Heat. So it would still be a pretty uphill climb to make it out. So just like he did a couple years ago, if you can't beat him, just join him.
I think I just don't know where he would go. And the Portland has cap, but that's money wise, it just doesn't add up. Miami's interesting because you have a package of probably have to throw Hero, Robinson. Salary wise,
Maybe
Bam, yeah. You gotta throw a lot, and I don't know if Miami wants to just toss the core away. It is Kevin Durant. Don't get me wrong. Like, you do a lot to get Kevin Durant on your team, but if Kyrie walks, you gotta play the hypothetical game, right? If you're Durant, you say, well, I'm left with Ben Simmons, who we don't know where his head's at. I'm left with a bunch of older guys on not the greatest contracts. And you have an injured Joe Harris coming back. They're still paying DeAndre Jordan, I think, maybe something along those lines. But besides the point, you have Cam Thomas and Claxton, but Claxton's kind of raw talent. We don't really know where he's going. Same with Cam Thomas. Not a lot of phenomenal young guys there. So, does KD really want to try to run it back and hope Marks can build that roster? We're not really sure, but at the same time, I'm not sure where he would go that would be beneficial for the Nets to kind of send him off. Again, a lot of this relies on, does Sean Marks have the balls to trade Kevin Durant? Does Sean Marks know what Kyrie's doing? He's got a big job, and Nash didn't get fired, right? He's still the head coach, right? So, what's Steve Nash going to do with the roster? Kevin Durant has to really think about a lot of things before he makes his next decision or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's a lot of places that make sense. I mean, if he goes out to the West, it'd definitely be very, very competitive if he somehow ended up on Portland. You got Kyrie on the Lakers in this scenario. Golden State's not going anywhere, and young guys in Memphis. Denver's healthy. Just a lot. It'd be a stacked Western Conference, especially with the Clippers coming back again, at least for the regular season. But I give it a 20% chance he leaves. I just don't think he's stuck in a very interesting scenario. I think he kind of has to play it out one more year, and then he'll make that choice. But, I mean, the Ben Simmons question plays a big role. If we see that Kyrie's opting out, I think Ben Simmons turns into kind of the, like, starlight again, and it's just, okay, are you good to go? Because if you ain't, then that will definitely increase the odds of Durant being out. But, again, how much is he worth to the Nets? How much is he worth to other teams? I mean, how's this trade market going to get set up? Because, I mean, Milwaukee's not going away. Miami could trade for him, but they're not going to disappear. They're going to retool. They'll be better. They usually end up getting somebody. Philly's still there, as questionable as Harden is, and the whole Supermax nonsense. I mean, Toronto's going to be good. There's just a lot of good teams in the East, a lot of good teams in general, but it's definitely going to be complicated, and it all goes back to a few days from now what Kyrie does. And I don't think Katie likes Kyrie's crazy mind being so influential on what he's going to do, but it really is. So, yeah.
Alrighty, now we can focus on the next kind of big free agent. We've talked about it when Brody was last here. DeAndre Ayton, obviously he's a free agent, a restricted one though. It's been some rumblings about him walking. I predicted that he's probably going to walk, but the Pistons were kind of rumored. Obviously, they have the most cap space out of everyone, so they have the money to pursue DeAndre Ayton. But I'm not sure who. Yeah, I'm not sure what his market's looking like now. If I'm DeAndre Ayton, I don't know if I necessarily want to. Granted, the Pistons can throw you a lot of money. Maybe money is the biggest thing for them. It was for the contract extension thing in the middle of the season. But I'm not sure if I'm necessarily wanting to go to a Detroit Pistons team while I'm so young and still have a lot to offer. I'm kind of changing my mind. I think he does end up back in Phoenix. I think they'll be able to repair whatever happened in the absolute collapse of the Game 7 against the Mavs. But if not, I think a team will definitely give him an offer sheet. That will probably be the max, whether it's the Pistons or like the Blazers or something. There will definitely be a team that will make the Suns think long and hard about what they do with Ayton. But ultimately, I think he will stay in Phoenix. I think if Phoenix lets him walk, I think that really hurts him coming into this year. Obviously, the West could heat up very quickly depending on what two guys do this offseason. So they got to be very careful what they do here. If Ayton walks out, don't know if you can necessarily fill that void. Could bring back JaVale and see what happens, but not sure that does great things for you. So if I were to put a percentage on DeAndre Ayton leaving, I would give it like a 20%. I just think if you're Phoenix, you just cannot let him walk. It's just the complete wrong decision to do. And if they do let him walk, it's going to be very, very bad when they look back a couple years from now. So I think if you're Phoenix, you got to keep Ayton no matter how he played in the playoffs. He's still very young, has a lot of growing to do, and has a lot to work on in terms of his offensive game and how Monty is able to utilize him. I think Monty can utilize him a little bit more than just a pick and roll guy and a lob threat. So, yeah, Phoenix has a lot to think about this offseason. But, I think Ayton should, and I think he will stay.
So I think it really just depends how the Suns can kind of fix their relationship with him, because obviously, like Matt said, middle of the season last year, contract talks went, very not good in general overall between Ayton and the Suns. So no one really knows officially like where his head's at, but you could kind of make the assumption that he dislikes the Suns for how they weren't giving him the money and stuff like that, etc. It would be smart for him to stay. I mean, the team still, it's been the Suns. They still can maybe I think they will make the playoffs if he stays. Definitely they should have maybe like kind of a sit down, him and like, the coaching staff kind of discuss his role with, the offense, give him more opportunities, things like that. And kind of just talk about what happened in Game 7. Obviously that's best case for the Suns. They work it out, kind of talk with him, what he kind of wants for himself and, things like that. But if he were to leave, there's definitely, a lot of interesting scenarios. It would screw over the Suns, which would make my day, better. But, there are definitely a lot of teams that have the cap, but does he really want to go to a Pistons who are... I don't know why he would want to go to Detroit, but the Pistons, Matt said the Blazers. One that was kind of intriguing to me was the Spurs. That was definitely a team that would be interesting for him to go to. I would kind of like to see that. They already have a kind of a young core there, and just to kind of see them get the center that they kind of have been needing for the past couple of years would definitely be really interesting. But at the end of the day, it kind of just depends what he wants. Does he want to win or does he want money? So I feel like he can win more with the Suns now, but I feel like in the future, I think if he were to leave and if he goes to a team like the Spurs or somewhere young where there are a lot of young players, and if things obviously work out with developing and stuff like that, then he could be on a good team in the next couple of years. But Ayton's in a weird spot because, we've already talked about the Suns roster in a whole. With Paul, we don't know what's happening with him. Booker's not that superstar that everyone was kind of hoping. Maybe that changes next year. We don't know. And just the role players are kind of just there. We all know that they have a good supporting system. It's just who's going to be that star that, the Suns have kind of needed. So it's definitely going to be a time where I think he can kind of just decide what he wants to do. But obviously he is that restricted free agent, so at the end of the day the Suns could just match any offer. But the chances of him leaving, I'd say 30 to 35%. I still think that I'm kind of leaning towards, just depends what the Suns want. It's all on the Suns. Do they want to talk it out with him and then he doesn't leave, or are they just kind of just going to ignore him? So it's kind of up to them, really. Just whatever they want to do, however they want to play with the situation, because it's definitely a good and a bad way to play this. So it's just up to them.
Okay, Charmin, Mr. DeAndre Ayton, Charmin Strong, Mr. Softy. Man, I've had a lot of interesting comments on DeAndre Ayton in the past, but I think this is almost a mutual bad situation for both teams. If Phoenix wants him gone, if he's gone and Phoenix doesn't get anything back, again, I've talked about a bunch of teams in the West. I didn't even bring up Dallas and the Pelicans. Phoenix is not the top seed in the West without DeAndre Ayton next year, or a comparable center. In fact, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think Phoenix barely makes the playoffs if they don't have DeAndre Ayton next year.
It's a hot take. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I just think that both sides are going to have to suck it up, and they're going to have to talk it out because, again, without a center that can get you 15, 16, and 10, that Phoenix team is just, Paul's another year older. We don't know what Booker's going to do next year. He could have a great regular season, get him to – I don't think they're higher than a 6 seed in the West if Ayton's not there. In fact, I think they're going to be a 4 or 5 seed next year unless, they have a great regular season, and then I don't think they're necessarily a team that other teams fear in the playoffs. I mean, I think there was a lot of teams that expressed the want to play Phoenix in the first round. I mean, again, as I said, Dallas, again, just got Christian Wood. They're going to be better. Zion's coming back. And if Zion averages 26 and 12 like he did or something like that, Pelicans are better. I mean, again, Lakers in this world, they get Kyrie. And every team in the West seems to be improving. Even the Kings, I mean, hey, if they hit the coach right and, Fox and Sabonis work things out, I mean, they could be better. Like, there's not a lot of weak teams in the West, excluding, I guess, Houston and wherever the Thunder go with that rebuild. In my opinion, they'll be there in a few years. But I just think that Ayton and Phoenix have to work it out. And if on the off chance they don't, and I think Ayton now, I give it a 10% chance he leaves just because, again, they both need each other. I mean, if Durant doesn't go to Portland, there's that. But I think Nurkic is coming back at this point. There's the San Antonio fit, but, I mean, I heard the Spurs might move on from DeJounte Murray, so I don't see why he would go there. And I just don't know what team's going to throw him a lot of money. There's not a lot of teams with a lot of money again. So I think that he'll be back in Phoenix. Just makes the most sense. And if he's not, then, I mean, Phoenix has a smart front office. Monty Williams is a good coach. James Jones is a great GM. I think they'll find something, but center market's pretty dry. I mean, now that Christian Wood's been traded, I don't think there's a lot of options. I mean, you have your Kevon Looney's and stuff like that, your guys that are more role system type fits that you could throw money at and gamble on and, see where it goes. But I just don't see Phoenix contending without that strong center. And again, JaVale's a good player, but he's not DeAndre Ayton, unfortunately, as much as I love JaVale McGee. And at the end of the day, if Chris Paul wants to try to win another ring, which it's not going to happen. I think he knows he needs DeAndre Ayton as well. So, yeah.
All right, and now we're gonna do a little envisioning. So, Brody mentioned it during a little break. We're gonna talk about in a world where Russell Westbrook goes to the Brooklyn Nets and he gets to team up with Mr. Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons. So if I were Steve Nash, the greatest coach of all time, if I were given a hand of Russell Westbrook to my team and Ben Simmons and KD are still there, holy shit, that would be a headache. So if I were the coach,
I'd retire.
First, I would ask Sean Marks if I can get fired, but if not, I would not have Westbrook off the ball, which we all saw how that went in LA. Frank tried it out, and he got his ass fired, so we all know how that went. I'd say Westbrook. There we go. Mike's back. Start Westbrook, Joe Harris, Patty Mills, whatever. Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons. Oh, and then you need a center. Holy.
Claxton.
If you put an actual center there, that just makes things even worse.
Andre Drummond.
So I think you put these are just the guys that I picture that are gonna be there. So Russ, Patty Mills, Joe Harris, KD, Ben Simmons, which is a very interesting lineup. I would love to see Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons on the court at the same exact time. I think that would just be a great scenario.
Could go 2
Hey, Ben Simmons, we all saw. I saw the clips when he first arrived in Brooklyn. He was working on his jump shot, and I think, hey, maybe it's time to showcase that with Mr. Westbrook in town. So it'll be interesting. if you don't want to go irrelevant, Sean Marks can very well get Westbrook, and he can run a Westbrook Ben Simmons show. I mean, people would, I know I would for sure love to see how that team would operate, and would love to see how Steve Nash would handle a team like that, because I think that'd just be hilarious to watch. But yeah, and if the world was flat, I would love to see this pan out, but obviously, at least I hope it doesn't happen. But it'd be great to see. And if I were to run the Nets, if I were Steve Nash, that'd probably be the way to go. Have Ben Simmons at the 5, have KD off the ball, kind of as like a spot up guy, and have Russ take over the helm at the ball. But yeah, that's kind of how I would attack it.
Now that is it's an interesting little world we're in right now. I mean, just first off, the shooting would be off the charts. Westbrook, I mean, obviously Joe Harris and Patty Mills.
We run it back to the 80s, bro.
We got KD, and don't even start with Ben and his shooting. Like Matt said, the center position. I think to make this team even better, give
Drummond. You gotta run it back with Drummond.
You get DJ.
Oh.
That's who you get. That's how you really, make the team a nice, good old starting 5. I mean,
have Ben Simmons and DJ both in the dunker spot. That's what you need right there.
Have Westbrook there too, all sitting in the paint while KD's sitting there ISO, just praying that somebody gets open.
That spacing would be absolutely atrocious.
I could just imagine it.
Pass and cut.
KD drives. He's betted the quarter. That's an easy pass right there. That's an easy 3.
Westbrook for a mid-range bank shot. That's what you need right there.
But Steve Nash, I mean, I would pray.
Nash is the wrong guy for that job, dude.
I would pray for him. I mean, this guy.
Go back to soccer, Steve. He's doing great.
I mean, how many wins would you give that team?
30.
Yeah, I'd say 30. 30. That would make KD definitely want to leave, that's for sure.
I mean, I could already just imagine the tension on that team with KD. I just would really love to hear the locker room talks. I could just imagine him like yelling at Westbrook or Simmons after
Steve
a game.
wouldn't say a word.
I would love to see that. That with like just on Christmas Day, Westbrook returns to LA or something like that. That would get numbers. I would watch that. That would be the most exciting game. So you heard this here, Rob. Yeah, I think you got to make a couple more calls to Brooklyn. We got to make this happen. This team, honestly, I would be more excited to watch the Nets. I think it would honestly get more viewers. Just the fact that NBA fans could laugh at just, especially if they get DJ. If they get DJ, I'm watching all 82. That's all I got to say. But if realistically, realistically, if that were to happen, I think Steve Nash will retire after that year. KD would leave. Westbrook would mental would be down in the drain, and Simmons he just wouldn't care. So
Simmons would hurt his back again.
So yeah, if that were ever to pan out, that would be something. But hopefully that never happens, and no one ever has to see that roster.
I mean, I brought this up during one of the breaks because I thought it'd be funny, but I don't have a lot to say on this. I just have a pitch for Adam Silver. I know that you guys have a lot of power, and I know you guys are about views and all that, like the NBA. You guys are smart. I mean, Kyrie and LeBron back together and Westbrook and Durant back together brings a lot of people that may have not watched last year. I'm just putting that out there. And I mean, yeah, I would go out of my way to watch the Nets play with Ben Simmons, Westbrook, and Durant on the court. I mean, who wouldn't with whatever the heck else that they do? I mean, hypothetically, if they did bring an Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan back into that lineup, Blake Griffin, who wouldn't want to see those guys? I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, he can kind of shoot. He could shoot a little bit. I mean, KD drives inside, kicks to the corner. Oh, it's Ben Simmons. Bring it back out. Be a lot of shot clock violations.
5 seconds, mid-range, forced.
Yep, exactly. But I mean, in this hypothetical world, which is like maybe a 3% chance of happening, still might. You never know. I mean, it'd be a big wow. I just think that Adam Silver should consider making a few calls, and Rob and Sean Marks. We all just gotta figure this all out. Beneficial for the Lakers, I think. Beneficial for NBA fans. Maybe not as much for the Nets, but sacrifices. Like, there's things that just have to happen. Wherever Westbrook goes, it's going to bring a lot of fans because, I mean, it's Westbrook at the end of the day. I think he just brings a lot of attention wherever he is. So does Kyrie. I think the NBA has a kind of a gold mine here of viewership viewership's going to go up next year, in my opinion, if Kyrie is a Laker and Westbrook's on, like, a Nets or a bigger market team. Because, I mean, you have the Warriors, you have all those teams in the West that are better, you have the East coming back, you have a lot of talent in the NBA going into next season. I just think that, I'm not saying it's, like, wide open, but as bad as this free agency class is, I do think that there's going to be about 8 to 10 legitimate playoff contenders in both conferences. Like, I think the West will be the stronger conference, but you could probably name, again, 10 teams in both conferences that are going to have, not necessarily title shots, but legitimate playoff hopes. Like, legit upsets. Like, you might see a 7-2 upset, a 6-3 upset. I mean, there's going to be, I think, teams with winning records that are in, like in the East this year, a lot of 43-39s, 44 and 38s. Like, those teams that are like 9-10 seeds next year. And we're going to see a lot of talent. I mean, I'm hoping the Lakers are up there. And, again, I know this was about a hypothetical word with the Nets, but I just think that the NBA has a lot of potential here. And Kyrie and Westbrook and KD, I guess, those three decisions have a lot more power than people think over the landscape of the league next year, especially free agency. Just Kyrie and Westbrook, not even Westbrook because we know he's going to opt in, but Kyrie's decision has so much influence on the league next year. And I think Kyrie is a smart enough person to see how much power he has right now. I mean, how much power the Nets have right now. But that in itself can literally determine the champion of next season, the fate of the NBA. I mean, if everybody stays put, I mean, then you're back with Golden State, Milwaukee favorites. You know, teams will be getting better. But, you know, if the Lakers get better and the Nets, you know, there's a 3-team trade, Westbrook goes somewhere else. I mean, it's definitely going to cause a lot of teams to start trying to make moves. It's going to be an arms race. I mean, Dallas, again, is getting wood. I mean, assuming Brunson comes back, which is another thing. I mean, the Knicks situation and all that. There's just so much talent, and as an NBA fan, it's exciting. And, you know, hopefully the Lakers will be up there and, you know, be able to watch a lot of NBA games next season. And I'm looking forward to what happens, assuming the Lakers get Kyrie, of course. But yeah.
Alrighty, I think that'll about do it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening and watching. Greatly appreciate it. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all our socials, and just the last word to Kyrie. I sent you a DM.
Yes.
Make sure to go check it.
Yeah.
For the listeners, this is what I said to Kyrie. I said, if you come to the Lakers, I got a cool $5 calling your name. Plus, you will achieve world peace and end world hunger, which is two things that Kyrie would love to do because he's the disciple of God and he would love to end those two things. But hey, you lose $30 million, I'm there, right there for you for $5. Send me your Venmo and I got you.
Yeah, if you want to come play with LeBron again, I mean, we're all for it. AD's for it. I mean, if Westbrook is still on the team, I'd love to have that hypothetical talk sometime in the future. If we have all four of those guys, that's gonna be Wow, that'll be a hoot and hollering session.
Yeah, so let's pray to God we don't have to talk about that because I really don't want to even think about that. But yeah, that'll about do it. Thank you guys for listening and take care.